Alright, for today's part of my Best of 2025 series, we're going big once again for my favorite roguelikes, and there's a whole lot of roguing, liking, and lighting that we did in 2025. We're going to start with a major cheat because it's my list and I can cheat whenever I want. And I'm going to pick Star of Providence. Technically, this was Monolith released in 2017, but the game was relaunched with a brand new name in 2025. I'm going to throw it here because more people, of course, need to play this amazing kind of shmup roguelike with a whole lot of bullet hell thrown in. We've already talked about it previously, so I won't go into too much detail, but if you haven't played it, go and play this one. Now with that, we had a whole lot of roguelikes and roguelites for 2025. It was a very amazing year for the genre. So my first pick goes to Jail Dice. This was the puzzle, turn-based, real-time action roguelike extraction shooter that I played near the middle of the year. Very original game that you will probably not play or see anything else like it for a very long time. And it feels like a really great concept to be developed further. Now, of course, if you are not good at the game, you'll be getting a lot of hours out of it trying to reclaim your resources. But it definitely has kind of caught my eye and my attention from the developer. So I'm curious to see what they're going to follow with next. Maybe they'll try, I don't know, making a roguelike version of Monopoly. One of my favorite games from the past decade was Drox Operative from Select Entertainment, about combining kind of arcade spaceship goodness with that of a roguelike. And my next pick is one that kind of delves more into the roguelike rather than the spacey side with Reality Break. A game that's all about you flying a ship and being able to rewrite reality as you see fit. Make your guns better, make your ship have new modules, make the world easier, harder, different, and so on. A really phenomenal concept for a game that's only going to get bigger and better in 2026, as the developer has been talking about updates, including adding in kind of more Ascension modes, more New Game++ stuff, and just a delight to play. And even without the new game stuff, just the base game in and of itself is a really, again, like our previous example, a fascinating concept as a roguelike, or in this case more on the roguelite side. So another title that if you did miss this one, highly recommend you check it out, because it's only going to get more enjoyable from here. Another game that kind of flew under the radar was Vellum. This is a up to kind of like 4-person co-op roguelike, with a focus on kind of a book ink aesthetic. Each kind of class has its own way of attacking, getting its own abilities. I like the use of kind of the different books and chapters as a way of adding to the difficulty and allowing the team to pick where they're going to go next. It reminds me a bit of Risk of Rain, in that single player wise, I don't think there was like enough going on to keep my attention, especially with all the other roguelikes we've played. But if you can find a few friends looking for a very, I guess, literary roguelite, this can be a lot of fun to play. Maybe we get a group together to try this one more in 2026. My next pick came very late into 2025 with Million Depth. It's a game I really need to play more of, both in my spare time and on the stream. This is a turn-based action puzzle roguelike with a lot of course, time loop shenanigans just because it wasn't complicated enough. The entire premise is that you create a weapon out of different blocks you find as you're kind of diving down. However you create your weapon affects how fast it moves, where its hard points are, where you want to hit the enemy with, and you're going to be kind of moving super hot style to avoid enemy attacks and then get in for your own hit. The time loop shenanigans add more to the story, more modules, more events, and so on, and it's one of those games that there is definitely a lot going on under the surface. Now, Million Depth, I don't know that it's that far, but another very original take on roguelike and roguelike design, and certainly worth your time if you missed this one. While this one did prove to be a little bit polarizing among people looking from the next big take from the Dead Cells team, I did end up enjoying the Rogue Prince of Persia, another game that I do need to record a review as soon as this mega list is done. Kind of a more streamlined and approachable take on the Dead Cells formula, complete with a very solid art style and aesthetic. For this one, if you played the heck out of Dead Cells, it's probably not going to be interesting enough or deep enough to kind of get you off that game. But if you didn't play Dead Cells and looking for kind of your first action roguelike to try, I would at least give this one a try and get your feet wet. And if you enjoy this one, then you have the mega amount of content and challenge of Dead Cells to look forward to. Another in the I need to go back and play more of it now that it's out category goes to Deepeye, Deepfake, Simulacrum, which I completely butchered that last part. A roguelike immersive cyberpunk future where you build your character however you see fit and try to go on missions to buy your life back. The immersive sim aspect is very true here, as you'll get a variety of skills, programs, hacks, summoning the undead, and many other ways that you can play this game to accomplish your goals. This is one of those titles that if it hooks you, you got a whole lot of time and enjoyment to get out of it. And like many of the other games on today's list, we need to go back to this one at some point in 2026. So for the immersive roguelike fans, if you've somehow missed out on this one, then you obviously need to check it out. Another ultra late entry, because I think we technically played this one in January, while it did come out in 2025, my next pick goes to Astral Throne. What happens when you combine the Fire Emblem weapon triangle of kind of strategy RPG challenge with that of a roguelike? You get a game that reminds me a lot of Warriors of the Nile, in that the roguelike elements really do kind of enhance the strategy and the tactical play. One run you'll build your characters out this way, another run you can go like this, with multiple ways of just utterly breaking the game. And it's one of those games I'm kind of debating if I want to go back to and play more of, as developers have announced a sequel with the intent to kind of improve a lot of the minor and not so minor issues people had with the base game. So if you haven't played this one, I would highly recommend it, and definitely keep an eye out for the sequel, because we could have a potential next entry for Best Roguelike whenever the sequel comes out. Wallworld's Pit is one of those games that I can appreciate the design of it, even though it didn't quite hook me as much as everyone else. What happens when you combine the ball-breaking style of Breakout with a whole lot of roguelike and progression, and probably one of the most addictive kind of like meta layers in terms of its city building design? A very original game that just kind of crosses or checks off every single like addictive roguelike gotta have one more turn feel to it, with a pretty nice art style as well. So this is one of those games that you've probably heard of it long before we've talked about it here. If you're someone who have somehow stumbled upon this video and knows who I am but doesn't know about this game, then you definitely need to play this one, as long as you have the time to break a lot of bricks, or skeletons in this case. Alright, this is future Josh, because when I was going over my picks for 2025, I forgot one of the many roguelikes that we played. So here's a bonus winner for the selection, and that goes to Galactic Glitch. This is a top-down kind of shooter roguelike, and while this may at first glance appear to be very similar to that of Star of Providence I was mentioned at the start, what this game does is focus on kind of like physics, being able to grab and throw things at your enemies, on top of a lot of meta progression. Really like the visual design, the kind of like undulation of your little like gravity wells that you're in, and it's just a lot of fun to create a build that's all about grabbing an enemy ship and flinging it at their friend to do massive damage. Another game with a lot of meta progression and meta content, and I would put this like on like the moderate to moderately challenging side. And another really solid take on top of everything else that we covered, of combining roguelike and roguelite elements with some other style of gameplay and design. Our last two picks are both sequels two very amazing roguelikes. One of them, I'm pretty sure you've probably figured out what it's going to be, as we haven't talked about it yet. But before we get to that one, my next pick goes to Wallworld 2. I was one of the people who really enjoyed the first game. It's kind of a different version or a different take on the Dome Keeper style. And Wallworld 2 is the bigger, better, and Wallworld 2 is the larger sequel with more walls to climb, more orcs to shoot for, and kind of changes the formula to be more of a grand campaign style, rather than just an individual run focus, which could be a bit polarizing for the hardcore fans of the first. Still, it's a really great follow-up that doesn't invalidate in any way the first game. So if you missed out on the series, both games are certainly worth your attention, and if you haven't played the sequel yet and you enjoy the first one, then there's definitely some more walls for you to climb and mines to dig. And it should come as to no surprise what my final pick for Best Roguelikes of 2025 goes to, and that is, of course, the sequel to a very popular roguelite, and that is Hades 2. Once again, Supergiant Games has knocked it out of the park with amazing art style, great voice acting, great music, although I think a few of you probably started to go a little mad with the Siren song after how many runs we did. The sequel doesn't quite change the formula in any major way, but refines it with a lot more things to pursue, a lot more challenges, more story, a lot more in terms of kind of not so much new game plus but post game challenges, and I do have to kind of return to the post game at some point to keep our runs going. In this respect, I don't think Hades 2 quite, again, supersedes the first game, and both are still phenomenal takes on action roguelike design. Like a lot of the examples in the list today, if you've somehow missed it, then it is a very easy recommendation, and again, it is anyone's guess as to where developers are going to go with their next game. But still, an amazing take that, again, does a phenomenal job of tying the roguelike and the roguelite aspects into all parts of the game's design, story, and of course the amazing writing. So kudos to Hades 2 to take us out for today with another phenomenal action roguelike, and for our list, just a really fantastic group of games for anyone needing a whole lot of runs and rogueliking in their life. And with that, another entry comes to an end. We have a few small ones and some very big genres left to cover. What were some of your favorite roguelites and any other combinations that you played in 2025? Let me know down in the comments. And with that, we'll do something a little bit small, I think, for our next selection. But come back for more games, more years, and a lot more titles to shout out in this series. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.